saying that we should basically look at a bit of like, I don't know, more cheaper starter end kit.
Yeah.
And I'm with you that I think you kind of get what you pay for sometimes, but I think you've been looking at stuff lately where you really do get what you pay for.
You do. Welcome back to Airsoft Action TV. I'm Tom Anvil Hibberd.
I'm Gareth Harvey.
Today we're going to talk about clone optics in Airsoft. And most of the optics that people use are clones of real steel optics, particularly Eotechs. And
yeah, they're the popular ones. I know, Tom, you've been actually working on an article for the print magazine about this, and in the past I've always been of the belief that if I'm going to play especially CQB games and there's a risk of getting it shot out, that I'd rather spend £40 on a clone Eotech or whatever than, you know, £400 on a mill optic or something like that, and just equally have it shot out.
Well, I do to a large extent agree. So an Aimpoint T1, T2 is going to cost you £500, £600, which is a lot of money. Proper Eotech is going to cost you £600 as well. The thing about those, Gadge, is that they're made for like jumping out of aeroplanes at 30,000
yeah,
feet.
they're not going to lose a zero, are they? And stuff like that, yeah.
Or diving underwater and swimming 6 kilometres to shore from a submarine. They're not really, or banging around in the back of a Humvee when you're invading Iraq for 6 weeks. They're not really what airsofters need. What there is though, there's a really interesting range of new optics on the market from a variety of companies like Holosun, Vortex, Sightmark, who are making really high quality optics for real steel firearms.
But at a sensible price.
At a sensible price, because they're not made for jumping out of airplanes at 30,000 feet.
I mean, even some clones aren't cheap. I mean, when I first bought my L85 IW years ago, and I bought a SUSAT, and there was only one SUSAT available at the time because real ones are like hen's teeth, and there's all the trouble about buying something with radioactive elements in it and that sort of stuff, yeah. And for £100 clone SUSAT, it was dog dirt, to be honest. Really poor eye relief. When it was put on the actual rifle on the sight rail, even with the windage wrapped all the way to the right, it was still firing slightly left. So even if you're spending £100 on a clone, you're not necessarily going to get something that's going to do the job.
There's a lot of people spend £200 on a clone LCAM Spectre, whereas you could get an actual low power variable optic, 1:4 optic, for £200 that would do the job a lot better. But of course, we all want, we're all pretending we're in the military or we're doing a law enforcement.
And for a lot of people, it's having the optic that's right for that gun.
Absolutely.
So exactly, with my 85, I could have ran it with iron sights, which would have been the sensible thing to do. At the ranges we play in Airsoft, you do not need a 4x optic, especially when it doesn't have the glowing tritium point on it. But because I was running a British infantry loadout at the time and I wanted it to look authentic, wearing a temperate European military loadout with the wrong sight on it would have triggered me a little bit in that kind of like mil-sim way.
Absolutely, and it sort of triggers me really. So I haven't, for a long time, wanted to do it. But I've had the really good opportunity working with Scott Country International, who I did the Flare Breach review with, and they've sent me some higher end real steel optics to have a look at.
Looking around about the £200 price.
So these are between £150 and £200, which seems like a lot of money until you get into it. So one of the first things I was looking at was battery life. Now I know you've got a clone Eotech.
Oh, mate, it's got about 15 seconds, I think.
I think every time we've been to a game recently, whether you left it on or not, I don't know. But every time we've been to a game recently, you've put a new like £6 battery in. So
pretty much.
That adds up pretty quick.
It's terrible also for getting knocked on by accident. It doesn't have an automatic power off after a certain amount of time. So if it's in my gun bag and I don't remove the batteries and forget to do it, and it gets hit by something else that's in there, a little bit of pressure, one of those switches goes on, so it's so easy to knock on. And you're right, the amount of times I've had to put new batteries in or even take the thing off because I've got no spare batteries.
It's the same with, if you hold this one up, this is a clone Eotech I got a while ago. It's actually quite a nice clone externally, though the reticule is actually pretty rubbish, it's too big. The buttons on the exterior of this one, this doesn't have the same thing again. It doesn't actually have a proper on-off button. It just has 2 buttons here, and if any one of these 3 buttons, if you press them, it turns itself off.
There's a variable brightness like I've got on mine, and press them together to turn it off.
That's correct. So it's pretty much the same thing. So that's a complete pain in the bum. This Vortex Crossfire, which is a real steel optic, has a battery life of about 7,000 hours on a medium setting. So for most people, you could, and it runs on a really cheap CR2032 battery. So for most people, you could actually just turn it on and leave it and change it once a year, which is pretty good. The Sightmark, this is another optic. This is a Sightmark. This one lasts between 200 and about 2,000 hours, depending on what setting you have it on. But it has a much more definable on-off switch. And also, and both of this also has an auto power off.
Which is what I could do with, to be honest. So.
But that's the sort of thing that
Yeah.
you start paying for. Now, if you imagine you use a lot of batteries over the course of a couple of years, suddenly...
If you put in 10 batteries in a year, that's 50 quid, isn't it? Easily.
Suddenly
Yeah.
these things don't start paying that.
I mean, some you can run on AA's, AAA's or whatever, and they're
Yeah.
rechargeable, which is okay. But again, you've got to go for those really long Eotech clones with a sort of like
Yeah.
enhanced battery compartment, you know. So most of the ones I know use sort of watch type batteries, you know, the exact
Yeah.
LR44s.
Yeah,
and that sort of stuff,
they're little tiny ones, little stacked ones.
Yeah.
So that's one of the benefits, is always battery life. And don't underestimate battery life. The amount of times I've been to games, you've been to games, and probably all you guys have been to games, and you don't have any power in your optic, and you're scrabbling around asking your mates.
Having said that though, actually running out of battery in my old G36's red dot was the one thing that made me strip all the unnecessary bobbins off it and actually run light
Well, that's
for
a
a
whole
while.
another story as well.
Yeah.
So the next thing I want to talk about is optical clarity. So I'm going to ask Gadge, and I'll show you. We'll show you pictures. I'm going to ask Gadge to look through this Sightmark,
Because quite often when
Other
you
way
look at other areas, sorry, yeah.
and then have a look.
Yeah, I mean,
and have a look alongside this ear.
there's no shading or distortion at all there, is there?
No,
not even an angle. And that, there's a little bit of like
the extreme edges. It moves a bit.
Big
now
layer.
compare that to this Eotech clone, which is its nearest comparison. You'll see how much.
that's almost like looking through a slight amber filter.
You'll see
isn't it?
how much darker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost like a slight glasses tint. You know, you see people with polarised lenses that can go. The glasses can go from
Yeah.
open to shaded.
And
It's like what they look like all
and
the
it's
time.
the way they project it.
Yeah.
Now it's even more noticeable on. So this is a 20 quid eBay special I got. It's actually not bad for a 20 quid eBay special, but it's not brilliant either. Have a look through that, and then have a look through this Vortex Crossfire. And again, we'll show you these. We'll show you these as well.
Yeah, again, you've got a bluer tint to that.
Yeah.
Again, it's like having a pair of very good sunglasses on. You know, the sort that basically like cut out the sun but give you that blue or slight sepia tint.
It's exactly the same. If you wear and then cheap eye pro is the same actually. We'll talk about that in another episode. You get a lot of optical distortion, which is actually quite hard work on the eyes.
Yeah.
If you walk around all day with things moving around slightly, it's quite difficult.
Why I really like Oakley's, to be honest.
Yeah.
My Oakley sunglasses, perfect colour perception, no distortion, they're great.
So again, an Aimpoint would have better colour than that, but then again you're paying 4 times the price.
Yeah.
So that's brilliant. So I really like that.
Now, one thing we were talking about, and again, this goes about the objective lenses. I, in the past, have put those Perspex lens protectors either in front of either slot on one of my Eotech or
Yep.
a RIS-mounted one in front
Yep.
of other things. Now, with most clone optics, if it's shot out, tough, you didn't put a protector on it, buy a new one.
Well, yeah.
Now, a lot of these, and especially from the Vortex range,
Well, the Vortex-
definitely, they have a lifetime guarantee.
The Vortex has the most ridiculous warranty I've ever heard of. Ever.
By the way, this isn't an advert, I'm just quite impressed by this as a
No,
feature of Vortex
absolutely.
optics.
It's the most ridiculous warranty I've ever heard of in terms of good. So this has what they call a VRP warranty.
Can we just point out that this AG has no batteries or anything in the magazine at all there, it's totally safe. Yeah.
So the warranty in this, no matter how it gets damaged, they will repair or replace without quibble.
Yeah, so it could be shot at in an airsoft
It could
game.
be shot
it could
at,
be
stepped on,
it
driven
could be
over, burned,
soaked in a bath.
so
yeah.
anything, absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Which is so. I mean, so I probably even it might be nice to run a lens protector on it, but again for me,
It's just inbugging to sending it off to get repaired or
it
replaced.
is.
isn't
But
it?
for me,
Yeah.
lens protectors start taken away from the immersion.
No, definitely.
So when I start seeing big lens protectors running around in front, I start getting a bit wibbly about
So
it.
with the AATech lens, I don't mind the ones that slot in because they're not so
Yeah,
visible. But it's the ones where you've got a big sheet of Perspex like hovering 3 inches in
Well,
front
you
of
can
like-
you can put a kill flash.
Yeah.
So the little honeycomb kill flashes on the front of these.
To be honest, it's one of the things with my Dragunov. I'm having a real steel Dragunov scope on that's actually worth more than the Cyma Dragunov it's on.
Yeah.
And I always worry about a stray BB smashing that because it's about 150 to 180 pounds worth of optic.
Yeah, and a bit of a pain to get hold of
Yeah,
again.
exactly.
Wasn't
It
it?
couldn't really fix it, couldn't change the lens. So that actually has a sunshade extension tube on it, which I quite
Yeah.
often pull
But
forward
you're
to get the maximum amount of
you're gonna have to be going some
practice.
to
smash a military lens. But it could happen.
So the other thing, Gareth, we're going to look at is, so we've covered warranties, we've covered optical clarity,
What about reticles?
reticles and dot brightness. So this is
Yeah.
currently on, I've set this one on the brightest it goes. Now this, I've known from experience, gets washed out in bright sunlight.
Yeah.
Okay, so have a look through there. And again, we'll show you pictures in a minute.
Yeah, that's pretty clear.
And then have a look at the dot brightness in the Vortex.
Now that is like a laser beam.
So you can
Yeah.
get really crisp dot. And actually playing with this, I was playing with this at Skirmish last week, a couple of weekends ago. Even at Airsoft ranges, a really crisp dot does help, particularly when you're trying to shoot through little gaps and stuff.
Well, bright days as well. You know when we were doing the range testing a while back, and it was a really bright day, and my clone Eotech even ramped up to full.
Yeah, you can see it.
I was struggling sometimes.
So the same. This is the same on it's the same on these ones. This reticle on this one is again is often either too dark in really bright sunlight. That's as bright as that one goes, or it's too bright.
Again, that's not terrible, but actually yours is better than mine. Normally that's the type of reticle that I struggle with focus. But there,
So
yeah, it's not terrible.
That's the Sightmark next to it.
But again,
it's a much crisper reticule. It's much tighter and it's also much brighter.
Yeah, very much so.
So
it's almost like it's on fire, isn't it?
Yeah, and, you can, and obviously you can turn that right down to get it. If you're doing CQB in the dark, and just together, so that will go quite nice and.
See, that's another interesting point, you know. I've noticed that some cheaper red dots, with a decent red dot, the projection of the light shouldn't be visible from the front lens at all.
If you get it right, yeah.
Yeah, but with some very cheap ones, sometimes you can get a telltale green or red glow if you catch people at the right angle.
You can see it play night ops. I've done milsims, and you can see people. The first sign you get of people is the glow of their red dot through the front of it, and you can see them coming towards you. Once your eyes are adjusted from miles away. This one you can get down, certainly during the day, you can turn it to a point where you can't see the dot at all. And you can only see it at night. And then you've got 3 or 4 different settings. It's, I think, slightly too bright to go with night vision. I haven't checked. The Vortex website doesn't say that it is compatible, and they normally do. So have a quick check. But I've got some night vision coming up to test, so I'll run this one through the night vision and have a look. Also with eBay optics, and eBay's a very broad term, I do mean kind of clone optics in general. Particularly ones you can get from AliExpress or Alibaba.
Towai guns.
Towai gun. You never quite know what you're getting. It's very hard to get.
Wish free.
Wish. It's very hard to get warranties. Good luck trying to get if it breaks, trying to get a warranty on it. This Sightmark's got very good manufacturer's warranty against defects and everything else. Obviously the Vortex got the VIP warranty.
So that's the only one we know of with the actual anything happens we'll fix it warranty. Nobody else actually does that.
Not that I know of. There may well be. If there is, let us know. I really like both of these. I've used both of these in gaming.
I like the styling on this, Jim. I actually thought it was that way round to start off with.
Because it's more like
it looks more conventionally. Well, you'd expect the battery has a bit. It's actually there.
They've got some more advanced models, so that's their kind of they've got a military one. They've got not a military one, but they've got a higher grade one which turns down low enough to go with night vision.
Yeah.
That's very nice. Both of these hold zero really well. So I wasn't very gentle with them when I was moving them around. They did get a few bumps. They went in a soft bag in the car rather than one all hard case. They held zero, and they've held zero between 2 games without any problems. Both the other ones don't. They want.
I find, to be honest, like the ones I use generally, I have to muck around with them before every game.
This one doesn't at all. So the adjustment system in it, half gauge pressures it. I've moved it.
Sorry, I did turn it off that one.
No, but you can actually move. You can actually move the body of the the sight inside the.
Yeah.
So every time you touch the adjustment screws, the actual body of it moves. So that's pretty useless for any sort of precision.
And again, one thing I'll mention as well, is that again, I bought a lemon, so that's not saying that all of them are like this, but there's one particular. I've got 3 Eotech clones. I'm quite fond of them, all slightly different versions. Now, one of them is a little bit wide, so I've actually even had to pad it with a little bit of tape.
Well, that's really common. Yeah, there's kind of 2 things there. The manufacturers don't necessarily make it to spec to mount on a MIL 1913 rail. And then Airsoft MIL 1913 rails aren't often to spec either. So the combination of the 2 can be pretty.
You get a small rail and a wide optic, and then you've got trouble, haven't you?
Yeah, and you have to start padding stuff out, and then you've got tape that moves and everything else. So one last point before we sum up: if you run a recoil gun, including Maruis, particularly glass blowbacks,
zero holding is important.
They can absolutely, one, the zero will wander, and 2, they can absolutely monster things like this and this. They'll absolutely, gas blowback rifles destroy cheap
If you're going to spend upwards of £500 on an AEG or GG gas blowback, why would you be spending £20 on your accessories?
Well, this is it. So in the real steel world, people quite merrily spend the same money or a lot more on the glass or optics that they put on top of their rifles. So I don't really see why airsofters should. Theoretically, obviously, the budget is always important, and if you can't afford this stuff, don't. By all means, just run what you want to run.
The only thing I think you should never scrimp on, and it's a different story, is always eye protection for footwear. After that, play with what you can pay for. No one's saying you have to use this, I have to use that, but we're saying in an ideal world, if you've got disposable income, you're seriously recommending pushing the boat a bit more for better
Just optics. A little bit. Obviously, if you can afford an Aimpoint, full power to you. I can't. If you can't, have a real think about it. Picking up a Vortex or a Sightmark, particularly from Scott Country, like huge range.
I know, being as clumsy as I am, it's the lifetime guarantee that really appeals to me on a Vortex optic, because I'm just so terrible at looking after stuff.
Yeah, I think it's also really, obviously it's quite difficult to show you from this, but we'll put some insets in. Both of them are really nicely made compared to the clones. They're nice, and all the moulding's nice and sharp. The engraving's done really well. This has got a lovely little skeletonized mount. They're really tidy. Coming from a world of, and this thing served me quite well over the years, world of clones, eBay clones. They're absolutely brilliant. I would recommend having a think about it. Maybe don't save up a bit longer, or don't buy that random Springer shotgun you think you really need, and have a look at getting a real steel optic.
Sounds like a good plan to me.
What's your experience with clone optics in Airsoft? Do you use a real steel optic? What do you think? Let us know down below.
Do you think they're too much money and not worth it? Are you going to stick with cheap and cheerful, or have we changed your mind? Again, leave us a comment. I've been Gareth Harvey.
Tom